Indiana University East School of Natural Sciences and Mathematics. Calculations involving significant figures. So there's a couple of aspects in calculations involving significant figures. Firstly, we need to basically standardize our approach to rounding off numbers. I believe you may have four, but essentially what I want to say is that we follow the 5 and up, we round up. We don't use the round even rule in this class. And we look at the digit right afterwards. We don't look at anything else, essentially. So here, for example, I want to round this to 3 significant figures. So I'm rounding it to this place. This is my third significant figure. This is a 4. I don't care what's here. This is a 4. So I'm going to round down. So it's going to be 4210. The problem here, though, is that this 0 may or may not be significant. So it is ambiguous. So therefore, a better approach is to use scientific notation. If I move from here 1 to 3, I find that it is 4.21 times 10 to the 3 in scientific notation. In terms of doing your usual arithmetic in terms of significant figure rules, you have to be careful with addition and subtraction, which follow different rules from multiplication and division. Now, one thing I want to say before we start is that between steps, you absolutely do not want to round. You want to keep track of how many significant figures you have, but you don't want to round. I'll explain this with another example in a bit. So here, adding and subtracting involving significant figures, you want to keep the least number of decimal places. So let's look at this example first. Here, I see, if I write it in column form, I see that the hundredths place is the last place where I have digits in both values I'm adding up. So therefore, I'm good only to the hundredths place, so it's 3.19. I do not care how many digits I have. This could lead to a change in the number of significant figures in your final answer. For example, if I have 12.4 plus 4 here. Now, let's look at here. The units place is the last place where I have a significant figure in both numbers. So therefore, I express it, the last decimal place is the units place, so the answer is 16. In multiplication and division, you go with the least number of significant figures. Here, I divide a number with 3 significant figures with a number with 4 significant figures, so my answer should have 3 significant figures. So if we look at this question, determine the volume of a box that measures 3.6 centimeters by 2.45 centimeters by 10.0 centimeters. This has 2 significant figures, this has 3 significant figures, this has 3 significant figures, and so my answer should have 3 significant figures. And if I do my arithmetic correctly, it is 88 cubic centimeters. Let's do an example that involves multiple operations. As I mentioned a bit before, we need to ensure in this case that all calculations are done in order of the usual rules of order of operations, and that we track our significant figures throughout the calculation. So what we tend to do here, and I'll explain how we do this. This will be a case where we want to convert everything back to decimal form. So this number is 8.23 times 10 to the 1, or 82.3. So let's start with whatever's in this set of brackets. So 5.159 plus 82.3. And if I do this, I end up going to tenths place. And so this is 87.459. Now, so this is my last significant figure. But in terms of what I do, I want to probably keep at least one more digit. Nowadays with calculators, you might want to use your memory registers for this. What I tend to do is when I write out my work, I write out what I need to do, and then I underline the last significant figure so I can keep track. Here, this is 0.024, and I add 3.00, and this is my last significant figure, so this ends up being 3.024 times 3.024. And then, okay, so both of these numbers are correct to 3 significant figures, so my answer should have 3 significant figures, so that's 264, as it turns out. It is important that note that we have been careful to track our significant figures throughout the calculation. If you don't, you will attract rounding error. However, don't use the underlining convention for reporting your final answer. Always report your final answer with just the correct number of significant figures.